All right, so yeah, the introduction was super techy. I would not be having that techy kind of discussion right now because also they talked about my experience to be 21 years. This year, yeah, it is 23. So we are kind of just catching up. And those people who would be having similar kind of experience, you'll see that over a long career, almost all the tech frameworks upgrade and change every year. And every 6 months, you have new frameworks coming up, new way of working coming up. We have seen this with data also. Whenever you start a data engineering team or data platform team or data science team, there's always a discussion related to as to what you understand, what are your skills, what is the value add that you have done in the previous organization, what kind of use cases, industries that you have worked in. I've been part of, I've just heard a lot of my fellow speakers yesterday and today. What I see is that everybody has covered to a large extent as to how to do things. Almost 50%, more than 50% sessions are related to how do you do things. And some of the sessions also talked about as to what you will be able to achieve, what organizations are trying to do. A lot of organizations that you have heard from, they are trying to catch up. They do not want to move as fast because of just like the last discussion. Medical or fintech, these kind of organizations need to move slower. They cannot move as fast. You cannot make a certain decision today and tomorrow you change your mind and you say that, okay, no, this is not how we are going to do the things. We are going to do the things differently. And that kind of stability or lack of stability can hurt those type of businesses. So I'm representing Cast24 today. There are no slides which are Cast24 architecture deep dives. And also though these guys told me that I need to keep the font size to 24 or plus. I tried to bring it down to 15, 16 only on the hope that probably a screen will be bigger. So I would start my session and I would also try to catch up to the time because I want to meet and see Anil Kumble. And so in this particular session, essentially we'll just try to review as to what has happened with software engineering, data engineering over the last 3 decades. You would have people who try to understand that there is a problem, can be digitized, and then it can be automated. And then somebody somewhere who is expert at that particular problem will be able to solve the problem for everybody, as well as that person is able to solve for one person. For example, for edutech, if there is a good teacher, the teacher is able to do a very good session with 30, 40, 50 students. That teacher would want to leverage technology to reach out to thousands of people, millions of people asynchronously over a period of time. So the internet speed, data, multiple type of data points. For example, previously you would see maybe some particular form being filled, and very reluctantly some people will fill those forms. Some people will very excitingly fill those forms 30 years back and get their information online because maybe there is a Yahoo categorization which is there, which is going to add value to some other people. So today I would not focus on how, because there are a lot of experts, and maybe in the last 1 year when I was at I was trying to solve the problems related to NBFC at Cast24. Cast24 has a business unit which is registered NBFC. It is named Cast24 Financial Services. It gives used car buyers loan to buy the cars. Then it also enables its dealers across the network to leverage and get some kind of operating capital for every car that they buy through Cast24, and then they will be selling it afterwards. So we have tried to reshape that entire NBFC to a fintech which can give more financial products like personal loan, credit card, insurance, it can give loan against car, refinance a particular loan, etc. So I was trying to solve this particular problem over the last 1 year. Not much of data engineering learnings that I've had. That's why I don't want to keep it very technical. But again, I would say that if you talk to a data engineer, there was a software engineer. That software engineering 5 years became what you would say a data aggregator, would do some kind of crawling, get from all the sources in the internet with Google coming in, that I would want to build my own internal Google search engine. Then indexes came in, search came in, you would pipe the data, you would have somebody act on that particular data. Thereafter, you would have not only certain mediums, your partners that are giving you the customers or the data, but there are multiple new aggregators coming in, multiple sources of the data coming in. Everybody using the latest technology, but after the 2 years, the technology changes, and now everybody is trying to use the latest technology again. So, different file systems. You started from some XML to JSON to Avro to Parquet, various different type of innovations coming. And any company that is running, or if you would be starting it today, certainly it is the right place for you to understand what kind of data structures are there, data stores are there, data streaming platforms are there, frameworks are there, data warehouses are there. How do you get all of this particular thing without having the data leave your premises or work with different clouds with the security? All of that is possible. So these guys formulated into more of a data engineer. Then these data engineers started building models, putting their brain or part of their brain into some particular programs that we have been doing from decades, right? Business rule engines coming in. And then these guys became data scientists. Then they became machine learning engineer. You would have some data you cannot trust. You know that that particular data is probably 5 years old, 2 years old, or a month old from another organization. You would want to have your models work better because everybody is starting a startup without data. But you would want to have the startup as relevant as some company which is collecting data from 5 years. These ML engineers slowly started becoming, as one of the sessions earlier talked about NLP, then they became AI engineers. Now you are like, it's the same stream, if you ask me. Essentially what we are trying to do is we are trying to automate the stuff and have, maybe if your team has a champion who is the brain behind your startup or your product or a particular P&L or a particular service, what we are trying to do is we are trying to replicate the efficiency and effectiveness of that person. You're saying that, okay, one of my, for example, fintech again, collections agent is a super champion. This guy just convinces the person, reaches at the right time, does the right kind of discussion talk, and has 120% of collections. What do you want to do then? There are startups in Europe who would be saying that, okay, I would get my agent intelligence put into this agentic AI, and then I would want all of my agents, which are like 2 months experience, learn from this guy who's a champion and do it all over. So you have like 100 champions now. So I would want to dive deeper into why do we have data engineering and why do we require these type of real-time processing also. With this, I mean, if we move to this slide, yeah, it took me a lot of time to search for a cockpit view of an F1 car. And when it was running, it was showing all these different telemetries. So if you think about it, essentially all the internet products, they came into life with synchronicity. They were sync products. You'd ask a question, you'll get some answer. Or maybe somebody just dumped the information, it's a reading kind of information. Otherwise, there is always somebody at the other end. Now, what you want with all these different type of data sources coming in, the data size increasing, the internet speed increasing, now the data started becoming the problem rather than a solution. The size of data was so much that you would not be able to do this real-time type of stuff, which is what you want to do. Because if you're running a, if you're driving and if you're running a car or even on a highway, you would want to have that kind of awareness, and you cannot take that decision that I'll learn from today's failure, I'll fail in every race and learn from that particular failure, and maybe next race my engine will be better, my tires will be better, my aerodynamics will be better. We cannot just wait for that. So we went from a real-time synchronous kind of systems to more of like better systems with more data visibility and better intelligence. We are again coming back and saying that that does not solve the problem. Analytics does not solve the problem. Can I have a response or a reaction that somebody actually is noticing me, or this particular system or this company knows about me? That I had discussion with one of their folks a week back or 2 weeks back. Or I always try to search for this particular company's, say, FAQ page whenever I visit their one of the locations or a dealership, for example. So if you do not have that particular type of response and that kind of information coming back to or appearing to your customer, the customer would just feel that, okay, this is maybe very static kind of website or app. I always go and I always follow this particular flow. There is no customization, no personalization. These people do not know me, they don't understand me. So they'll not be able to connect with you. So then you are very much limited in type of offerings that you'll be able to do. This is the journey we just talked about. Everybody started building batches because, hey, I cannot keep that many number of, say, threads in my server. I cannot have that many lines open. That particular connection needs to be broken. The pipe cannot be kept for eternity. So everybody started solving this particular problem with batches. Then batches became micro batches. Then you talk about some of the providers outside, some exceptionally good at small batches, micro batches. Others talking about streaming. And then you need to understand as to when we are solving all these problems, why are we trying to solve those problems? So the why is very important, because you need to understand not all business decisions need to be immediately in this particular moment. You need to give some time to the customer sometimes. You will also take some time to come out with a more deep dive kind of thinking, wherein you are collecting the data information from all the people, the reactions that people gave. For example, the event happened on 5th or 6th of May. The reactions started pouring, but all of us might have read those reactions a day later. Because that time you are able to collate that it was not an AI generated image, it was not a bot posted comment, it was validated, and there are a lot of deeper insights that certainly come after a certain time. So it is not possible to do everything in the real time. So you need to very judiciously, cautiously choose those particular use cases wherein you would want to go real time. Now, how do we make things real time? So this is just one particular lens of looking at real time pipelines, as we say. Some of the major stages of a real time pipeline. Essentially, we see that there are some problems we need to solve, because why do you want to have event emitters? You want to have event emitters because everybody is told that if you give me this type of event, I understand it. If you give me maybe some particular raw event, it is definitely some transaction, some event has happened. But if I cannot make sense of it, I'll not be able to do anything later on. So there is some kind of contract which is negotiated. Events need to be emitted at what particular frequency, which system, what type of event, what is the size of the event. And thereafter, you would want to say that, okay, I have defined this, now I need to maybe project as to today I will be having these many customers, these many events, these many leads, these many marketing kind of interactions or engagements, and then you would want to have that ingested in your system. there needs to be an engine to process all this particular stream, right? We'll talk about, I'll probably have a reference of a couple of such engines. But what you're trying to do is that you are saying that event stream is there, available for consumption and processing. You process it, and what do? I mean, it can be one single step kind of processing, or if you're saying that, hey, I understand that this is a profile update, for example. Does the profile update needs to talk to some other event? It needs to be aware of some other event happening. It needs to be aware of the same customer's events happening 5 days back. Can I pull in some kind of insights from there? And maybe for a fintech, you would want to do a fraud check with that particular profile update. This person changed the name, or changed the address, or changed the profile picture. Is there a fraud check required now? Maybe yes. Then what you would be saying is that this processing is not only processing of that particular image which is uploaded, but you need to be maybe running through the entire data warehouse in some way, or maybe you would want to understand what's the big difference between the previous and this particular image. Is the person changed, or it's only an aspect which has changed? So real-time enrichment is the next important thing. Essentially, the context you are adding, or you are trying to join some of the other context to it, that is only when the enrichment will happen. And then you would want to keep dumping all of this particular data. As in one of the previous sessions, we talked about the raw data wins or everything else, because essentially you can recreate the entire thing. For example, for resilience also, you can have your CDC, and that CDC is essentially event stream. You can recreate your update deletions of the database also. So you need to have very low latency database, which is for persistent. Then if you're talking about real-time, insights need to be popped out of the system, then reads also need to be real-time. Analytics layer is the more from the perspective of that, okay, you are doing only the reading at this point of time, and maybe you would be improving your processing engines or your enrichment frameworks or your schema, modeling, etc. But it is very important for us to understand that, I mean, real time does not mean that, okay, dump all the data that you want. And whatever size, the size just increases. My S3 bucket size keeps increasing every month and every week. And it creates more problems than it solves. So data streams flowing in, there needs to be some kind of cataloging, there needs to be some kind of lineage identification, and that is where you will also try to map that, okay, somebody put in this particular data, then that producer of that data would also want to define as to who should be having access to that data. So there are a lot of different taggings and mappings that need to happen for that data to make sense later on. It can be a customer 360, it can be partner 360, it can be related to maybe a particular campaign, entire picture of that particular campaign. For example, for Cast 24, any customer walking in starts a chain of events. What would the customer like? Where did the customer move? Which type of car? Which particular model? How old would that particular customer, car the customer would be looking for? And then you try to marry that particular data to your previous experiences, your cohort, your campaign, and everything, saying that, okay, my campaign is successful, my layout of the dealership is fine, the cars that I have posted there are also okay or not, the customer is satisfied, would he want to maybe reschedule it, would I be better giving that particular customer another car that is just in refurbishment and will be available 2 days later. There are a lot of things that you can do, but again, you would have raw data. Raw data will not be as important. The only importance is the context that you can put to it. I mean, I believe that everybody understands consistency, partitioning, and availability. So I'll not be talking about that. For all the tools that are there, some of them win in terms of the batch sizes or real time. Some of them win in terms of where they can ingest the data faster from. And some of them are able to do that particular data modeling, remodeling, or mapping much faster, right? And all of these tools have over time just improved and improved. But you should be approaching it from the perspective that, hey, maybe I need to look more from the perspective of my business need. What is it that we are adding value to, and what is the system that will be able to enable all of this? Because at the end of the year, when the annual plan is again made, you would be asked the question as to why did we build this particular technology? Whether we were able to measure the success of this also. This is Metascore available on the internet. You guys can see that, yeah, Flink is kind of just winning. Kafka started from more of event versus and streaming, so they were thinking only in terms of that. And Spark also worked very well when everybody wanted to reduce the batch sizes, but Flink is more real time. This just maybe one type of mind map I tried to create. It was very hard. ChatGPT was not able to understand what I was trying to say. Maybe you people will be able to understand. So we have all these events and all these different type of identity or transaction events coming in, but there are always some processors or enrichers or doing some kind of cataloging and trying to relate to some other data. And then you add your value. You maybe streamline, like one of the gentlemen talked about that, yeah, they were from the arrays, they were putting in a singular event from Redbus. So essentially what you're doing is that is more of cleanup, and thereafter if you add some other events to it, that is the enrichment. After you have done the enrichment, yes, you would want to have real-time dashboards rather than dashboards. ClickHouse talked about fast boards yesterday, that they call it. Wherein what we are saying is that all these dashboards are more of a pull kind of model. You have the data somewhere, you have built a particular query, there are some KPIs you are looking at, and you are showing those KPIs. Still, the person who is making the decision, taking into account all of this, looking at all of this, is the decision maker. You still have not been able to have a real-time decision maker, because how many people will be looking at it? One of the medical company startup, I visited their office. They had a huge screen, similar size, in a room which is war room, and they're looking at that dashboard as to what is happening today, how's the business today. We are trying to build similar kind of dashboard for Cast24 Financial Services also, to see as to how it is going today. But still the decision makers are people. You would want to move away from that. But again, you are not saying that we will not be needing warehouses. I just walk you through one particular instance wherein warehouses are going to have that contextual information. How many of you take pride into your tradition or your culture? It is kind of viral these days, but yeah, that's very long back historical kind of learning. Do you not want to have historical learning? If your answer is yes, you'll not require data warehouses. Otherwise, data warehouses are there to stay. They were there. It is going to be maybe just improve. On each use case, you'll try to take that particular decision whether I want it to be available in 9 minutes, I want it to be available in 1 day. When is that information or product is to be delivered? So we'll be not talking about dashboards, but we need to have systems wherein these insights are created and they are persisted or they trigger some kind of actions. We are able to map some actions to them. That if there is some particular insight which has come in, this number has gone up or gone down, then what is the action that I can take? So your systems are not only trying to create all this information and generate all that data, but you're also trying to say that my systems are able to take in the insights and implement some actions on those data also. This is where you will have some kind of decision engines, and you would want to have some kind of microservices because they can take care of that type of stuff, rather than somebody just importing that, okay, this is the campaign that we want to run today. Rather than that, would you be able to run a campaign or start a campaign tomorrow, or maybe in the next 1 hour? Everything boils down to this. You start a company, start a product. For survival, you take a long time. You're doing something very different which nobody is able to replicate, 0 to 1, if you guys have read Peter Thiel. And thereafter, can you change? As I talked about, the frameworks upgrade every 6 months. New frameworks come in. And new technologies come in. Sometimes those technologies are very good, but they don't survive because the community is not there. Maybe a lesser 95% efficiency technology survives, which has a better community. So the tools are not that important. What is important is you need to understand as to what problem we are trying to solve, what are the ways, the first principles to solve those problems. So if you have agility and flexibility in your system, then you will be able to grow and grow. You'll be able to create 0 to 1, you'll be able to grow 1 to 10. And there are various different use cases wherein maybe, yeah, you will be able to have that type of company which is fintech, which is having least NPS. Or you would be so personalized that people feel connected to you, that this particular app is just talks to me. Innovations happen actually there. We cannot take time's up questions. But again, I would just posting one question to you guys as to, we should be asking ourselves, our team and people we work with, as to, yeah, everything fast and real time is good to have, great. But what is that one thing, that rank order 1 or P0, wherein we distinguish if we respond in real time to a particular customer event or interaction and make a difference? Because that particular difference is going to differentiate from other companies, other teams, and other tools or stacks. Thank you.